Chapter 18, Nutrition During the Adult Years, Screencast 1. This chapter is going to be describing the physical and physiological changes that occur during adulthood and the impact on nutrient needs and food intake. It also will explore how dietary choices can help people keep their bodies performing efficiently and delay, prevent, or manage the declines commonly associated with aging. So one of the things we're going to look at here is how does our diet impact how well we age. And that's going to be really important because as a country, we're living longer. Typical lifespan now for men is about 83 and women 87. And anecdotally, we can probably think that it's longer for a lot of individuals, and health has a significant impact on that. Now, adulthood begins when adolescent growth is complete. And now we're looking at a change in the nutrient need because we're looking to maintain the body rather than support growth. Generally speaking, the following breakdowns of adulthood are common. 19 through 50 is referred to as young adulthood, 51 to 70 middle adulthood, and over 70 referred to as older adulthood. And as I said, we have a growing population that's getting older. So I think it's really important to illustrate that. And many of you that are going into healthcare are going to be working with an aging population. Now, as noted in the last slide, adulthood is really characterized by maintenance and aging. From beginning of adulthood to age 30, body systems are at peak efficiency. So up to 30 is when we start to see all of our body systems working at peak capacity and efficiency. After 30, the rate of cell breakdown begins to exceed the rate of cell renewal. This leads to a number of consequences. There is a decline in the size of organs and how efficiently they work. Body systems and organs retain enough reserve capacity to handle everyday demands, and at the same time, placing severe demands on the body will cause problems. Now, if we look at physiological aging, it is the sum of a number of things: automatic cellular changes, lifestyle practices, and environmental influence. So one of the things that I want to point out here is really the one that's very much not in our control are automatic cellular changes. We have significant control over our lifestyle practices and to a certain degree environmental influences. Now, there's no getting around the fact that as we age, more and more cells are dying. And as this occurs, organ function will start to decline. Think of this, we're an organic machine, okay? Machines wear out, and the human body is not going to be any different than other machines. Here we kind of talked about this earlier, and one thing that we do see, especially now, is a significant increase in life expectancy recently. Okay, if we look at previously, historically, life expectancy was significantly lower, but now think about what we have. We have better medicine, we have better health practices. All of those have resulted in an increase in life expectancy for males and females. Generally, we will see women living longer than men. The average is about 44 years longer. Okay, with 83 currently the expected lifespan for males, and 87 is the current expected lifespan for females. Now, what this chart is telling us here are a number of functions that actually decline with age. And so notice at 30, pretty much everything is in that high ballpark range, 100%. And notice some things are actually decline at a greater rate than others. Some are kind of clustered around each other, and some also are related to sex, bone mass in particular, when we're comparing males to females. But really what we see overall, most things are about 60% or so. That is about the ultimate decline that we get, with some factors declining to a greater degree. Now, I do want to spend some time with this particular table because I think there's some really important information here. And what are the current hypotheses responsible for aging? Now, one, that there's errors in copying the genetic blueprint DNA. This makes sense. Once you start to have enough errors in the replication of DNA, cells are no longer going to be able to synthesize the major proteins that are needed to function. So that's important. If we look at free radicals, that's an especially important situation. We do know that highly reactive species break down the cell membranes and proteins. DNA in mitochondria typically shows this type of damage, and it has been linked to the aging process. One way to prevent this free radical damage is through the consumption of antioxidants, and that is something that we've kind of addressed along the way as some of the topics of discussion this semester. If we look at communication between the nervous system and the endocrine system, they no longer work as well together as we age. So there's kind of a breakdown in the communication. Some of this is due to a decrease in the concentration of many hormones. One thing, this is not surprising either, as we get older, our immune systems become less efficient, meaning we can become more susceptible to various diseases. And also, this can be compounded by a decline in nutrients. Autoimmunity. So what this means, there's more and more autoimmune reactions where immune system begins to attack body tissues. Rheumatoid arthritis is a really good example of this. There is what's called a cross-linking or glycosylation of proteins. What happens here is this action is going to decrease protein function and kind of encourages the immune system to attack these altered proteins. A really good example here, when blood glucose is chronically elevated, it attaches to various blood and body proteins. Death is programmed into the cell. So programmed cell death, this is one of the leading theories. And on the average, the typical human cell can divide about 50 times. Once the cells have reached this number of divisions, the cell dies. And now the contents of that dead cell spill out and they damage neighboring cells. So there is quite a bit of evidence indicating that this is one of the key factors. Now, one thing that we know happens is as we get older, unfortunately, we tend to have excess energy intake. And so that can be a problem. We do know that underfed animals live longer than those that are well-fed. So one of the issues that we have is we have a tendency to ingest more calories than we are actually expending. Now, these are some aspects that are the normal and expected parts of aging. We expect to see increasing body fatness. There's going to be a decrease in lean mass, a rise in blood pressure due to overall increased resistance across time, a decline in bone mass, and unfortunately, increasingly poor health. Now, a number of factors can actually accelerate and make things happen more quickly, such as an unhealthy lifestyle, chronic diseases, and also exposure to adverse environmental areas. Now, the goal of most of us is to actually age successful. And what this basically means is what we want to do is as we go older, not due to lifestyle, environment, or chronic diseases. We want it to be just the fact of getting older. And what we see happening, age-related decline occurs at a slower rate. You're going to see an onset of chronic diseases, which mean they're going to happen later in life. And one of the things that we kind of talk about is this compression of morbidity. So a greater number of healthy years and fewer years of illness, leading to a much higher quality of life. Now, here we're looking at a couple of factors, okay, as they're related to what we see happening as we get older. And kind of notice there's a number of things that we can see for the most part that are related to age overall. Now, if we look at some factors that are going to impact the rate of aging, heredity. There's plenty of evidence documenting that living to an old age runs in some families. We know that females live longer than males. What's known as a thrifty metabolism is something that reduces longevity. A higher rate of HDL, the good cholesterol, will increase longevity. Now, if we look at lifestyle, food choices, exercise patterns, and the use of various substances can all impact our health and longevity. If we look at environmental and socioeconomic factors, we do know that a higher income, higher level of education, access to health care, a sense of psychological well-being, and access to shelter all are outcomes that increase longevity.